Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I have my amazing co-host, Chuck Swartzfist is
Staskowitz, Jen. I'll help you out there.
and we are so excited today. We have an amazing guest with us today who I am so impressed by, Miss Denise Swafford, VP of Coaching at P1 Service Group. Is that your current title?
Actually, I just got a new one. So
I
now
saw it on LinkedIn.
I'm now the Chief Commercial Officer.
That is so exciting. You've had quite
Fancy.
she fancy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for visiting with us today. We've had, for anybody who's just joining us, if you've missed previous podcasts we've done over the last, like 5, 6, 7 weeks, we've had heavy hitter after heavy hitter after heavy hitter, people that have built, bought, sold, and sometimes more than once. Many times businesses within the home service space. And Miss Denise, to add to that collection of heavy hitters, you're the most beautiful out of all the ones we've had on the on the on the show so far. I'm so excited we'll get to go through a whole podcast where he is not the only term we use.
I love it.
So tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get into the home service space? And then we're definitely going to dive into prior exits, where you are now and where you're headed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got started in this business like many of us do by somebody that claimed to love me, which was my father. So my father was an air conditioning technician my whole life growing up. The only thing I knew in life growing up is I wanted nothing to do with the trades. My dad did my ballet recitals and never could take a vacation in the summer and all of those things. I remember riding in the truck with him when I was little and he let me be the gopher. And I thought that was so cool. I had a title and everything. And I'd run to the truck and get parts and pieces for him that I didn't know what I was getting and bring back to him. So it's kind of in my blood. But after I got married and had my daughter, I was working at the time. I grew up in Destin, Florida, Fort Walton Beach area. And I was working out at the military base, civil service. And after I had my daughter, I cried every day when I had to leave her in daycare. And so my dad at the time had gotten the entrepreneurial bug and started his own business. And he was working out of the little converted garage in his house. At the time, I think we were doing probably less than $500,000. And all of that was like new construction, big jobs out at the military base and stuff. But he said, why don't you come over here? You can answer the phone, dispatch some technicians, that kind of thing, and just have the playpen right here to watch your daughter. So I did that about 6 weeks, rolled up my sleeves, decided I absolutely loved the industry, but I knew there had to be some better ways than what I was seeing my dad do business. I love him. He could fix anything, but he used to like bring in the one technician once a month and they'd say, all right, now where have we been this month and what do we need to bill? And they'd make these little piles of invoices in the floor. And I'm sitting back scratching my head going,
I'm hurting my heart.
But there's probably a better way to do this. So about that time, I got this letter in the mail, one of these infamous letters in the mail. It was from a guru by the name of Jim Abrams that had a company at the time called Contractor Success Group. And he was inviting us up for a success day. So my dad, I went into him and I said, I want to go check this out. At the time, I'd never even been on a plane, Jen, never been on a plane
Oh
before
my
in my
goodness.
life, And my dad's like, well, I don't know about that. You have to find somebody that I know that's, familiar with this guy. It sounds too good to be true. So I did. We found a gentleman my dad knew and trusted really well that was a member of the organization. And he said, yeah, it's the real deal. You need to go check it out. So my husband and I got on a plane. And at the time, it was pre 9/11. So my dad walked me up to the gate. And the last thing he said is, don't buy anything. And the second thing he told me is, remember that airplane is built by the cheapest bidder. So I get on the plane. We fly to St. Louis.
Like my dad.
We joined Contractor Success Group. We get back on the plane. We sit down and my husband goes, there's no way I'm telling your dad what we just did. So we actually had to float a check to make sure and then get home and collect some money to make sure the check would clear.
Yep.
Joined Contractor Success Group. And that was in the early 1990s. I think it was 92 and never looked back. So we started implementing things. And then within 4 years, we had bought my largest competitor in the market and we exited and sold it during the first round of public consolidation. So we sold to American Residential Services.
Wow. That is exciting. Oh my goodness. When he said I'm just curious, when he said don't buy anything, This was what made you say, you know what, I have to.
I mean, just being in the room with Jim and John at the time did the success days themselves. And so, hearing them talk and hearing Jim's story and how he had built his business from the ground up. And it was just, I knew it was the missing piece that we needed, systems and processes and marketing and, things like that we truly, needed in our business. And so, I even came back and I'm trying to tell my dad what it was we joined. And I said, I don't know. We're going to shut down the business for a week. We'll fly out to California. We're going to figure it out together. So
yeah, you invest in somebody else who's already been there and done that so you could truncate time.
Yeah. He definitely, Jim, changed my life. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. The difference between spend and invest.
Yes, absolutely.
So from there, where'd you go?
So I worked my way up after we sold. I was the general manager by that time. My dad was looking to exit, so he exited the business and went fishing and enjoyed life. And I worked my way up after that. I became a regional sales manager in the state of Florida. I managed $55 million of revenue back in 1996. So that was quite a large book of business at the time across 12 locations. That kept me busy for a while. And then after we had just I'd been in the grind for a while and it was just constant change and we were learning, Jen, I can tell you all the things that we did wrong back in that first round of consolidation. And I just kind of got tired of it. And one day I got a call from Terry Nicholson, who was running Success Academy or Success Group International and part of Jim's organization. And he invited me to come to St. Louis, Missouri to talk about an opportunity. And I got on a plane and flew to St. Louis. And, I had been to St. Louis a couple of times for events, but I'd never been in, October when it was so beautiful and the leaves were changing. It was absolutely gorgeous. And we sit down and we talk and we come to an agreement. I'm going to lead Success Academy, which was the training division at the time. And I went home, told my husband, we're going to move to St. Louis. So we packed up, moved. Along about December, this white stuff starts falling from the sky. I'm a Florida girl. I don't know what this stuff is, I kept hearing about black ice and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And I had a little sports car. I found it one day. I went because I now know what it is. So
oh my goodness.
So I had the opportunity to do that for quite a while. And then eventually Jim started the franchising division and I got offered an opportunity to join them as VP of franchise operations. So I oversaw the Ben Franklin, 1 Hour, and Mr. Sparky operations. And it was based out of Sarasota. So I was like, yes.
Go back to some sun.
I want to go back to some sun. So I did that up until they sold to Direct Energy. And then at the time, way back when I had sold my business to ARS, I had a boss at the time that was my national sales manager. And his name was Jack Tester. And he was running, he had gone back to Contractors 2000, which was now Nexstar. He had gone to that and he was going to be stepping into the president's role. So I actually backfilled him and took his book of clients and coached them. And there was only 5 of us at the time. So it was a much different Nexstar than what it is today. I get to be a client now. So I get to see the other side of it. And it's like, wow, this is like so cool to be a part of this again. So I did that, stayed at Nexstar for many years. And then my dad got sick and I had the opportunity to just take a step back. And I spent 8 months with him before he passed away. And it's time I will treasure dearly. I'm so glad I was in a position to do that. And then I thought I was kind of done. I kind of lost my passion. My dad had always kind of been my why I did what I did. And it took me a while. And I had coached a guy when I was at Nexstar by the name of Mike Aguilero. And by this time, Mike had started CEO Warrior and we reconnected. I was reading his book one day on a plane and I reached out to him and said, this book is amazing. I just have to tell you that. And so he invited me to an event and I went up to an event thinking I was just going to go participate. And the next thing I know, we're talking about me becoming a business coach there. And I did that. And then I eventually took over and ran their, I was a director there and ran their training and events, which is where I met Chuck. That's how I came across him. And I did that up until I had the opportunity to basically join P1, and it's been a fun journey here. So I do the same kind of thing here. I work with we have 4, actually now 5 locations, physical locations, and a lot of little tuck-ins that we do. And I coach them and help them find operational improvements. And then last year we kind of made a decision that we wanted to bring together our sales and operations focus more in line with our marketing focus. And so what the chief commercial officer role is really all about, is making sure that, if we're going to place a marketing ad, do we have the right infrastructure to support it? What's our conversion rate look like? What's our average ticket
Yeah.
look like? How are we going to maximize, the opportunities in front of us? So that's my journey.
Girl, that is awesome. At some point, you decided I'm just going to go get a black belt in Six Sigma
I
certification.
did. That was at ARS. Yeah, at ARS, I had the opportunity. They
On
deployed,
the side.
yeah, on the side kind of thing.
And
They
knock that out real
deployed it. They deployed it there, and it was like the first time it had ever been done in a service business. And it was
Wow.
one of those things, Jennifer, that I thought, I'm never going to use this stuff again, And it totally changed the way that I think and that I approach business every single day.
Yeah.
To be more strategic and make fact-based decisions instead of gut-based decisions. But yeah, I was one of 5 black belts at the time in ARS, and that was a fun journey. My first project was to reduce our no money trips. And so we had a whole project, and Jack was actually my project leader, and we came up with a cool process that a lot of people still use today, and how to recapture revenue. And the first year out back then, it recaptured $12 million in revenue. So I was pretty pleased with that.
Let's go. I love that. Prior to being an entrepreneur, I was in the retail space, and I was one of the first top 10 experts in supply chain management, and they put me in the Six Sigma course to put me through the certification. And there was a point in time where I felt like it almost made me someone that people who love me might not want to be around.
I can relate.
I couldn't even go into a restaurant without seeing all the inefficiencies, operational efficiencies. It changed the way that I looked at everything, even on a personal note. So I had to like pull it back a little bit.
I can relate. Definitely.
Pull it back a little bit so that I'm not. My family called me extra.
I used to tell people that, I am a Six Sigma black belt, but I can't break a board. Well, then I went to work for Mike A, and we definitely had to break a few boards there. Prior. So.
Chuck, you've been quiet, and I know when you put 2 women like this in a room, it's hard to get a word in edgewise. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute.
No, I like what I love about Denise is every time I'm around her, I learn something new. Right. And she was one of my favorite trainers. There's a special place for all of them, but Denise is definitely one of my favorite. I worked very closely with her for a lot of years. She knew all of my team. She knew my company really well. And I actually was talking with P1 during my exit, so I love to just sit back and listen. Denise, when you talk about the OG, like, you're one of the OGs, and I love that. And that's where it's like, learn from the greats, right? And you've been doing this for some time, and that's so important to me. And what I love most about you, Denise, is even after all this time and everything that you've been through, you're never too busy for a phone call from me, from a text message, or to jump on a podcast and hang out with me and help people. Right.
I love that.
You will absolutely. I mean, to the person that's just starting out, you're going to reach them today. And that is such an amazing quality that not a lot of people have these days. And it's just so good to be on with you. I've heard your story many times. Right. And I've watched you train a ton of people. And I know the position that you're in right now, and you love doing what you're doing. What would you say right now to, guys that, like, look, there's a lot of options right now, and there's a lot of people that can get confused. We've had some great people on as guests, prior to this episode, so like, obviously P1's not a fit for everyone, just like some of these other companies might not be a fit for everyone, but they might be a fit for someone. So tell me, what if it was you in the position as a seller, what would you be looking for when you're going to partner with someone with, nowadays?
Yeah, great question. I go back to when I was sitting in that seat as an owner, and what was I looking for? And it really hasn't changed. All these years later, it really hasn't changed what I would tell people that I think they got to look for. Obviously, it's about, taking care of you've put all your hard work. This has been your baby. You've watched it grow and nurture and got it to a certain point. So you got to, make sure that you're financially rewarded for all of that risk and effort and blood, sweat, and tears you put into your business over the years. But that's the first thing. Then the second thing is it was about my people. So I wanted to make sure that my people were in a place where I felt like I had taken them, Chuck, to as far as I could take them, and they could never go past that. I had capped their ability to grow. And one of the things I was really proud of after we sold was what my service manager became a trainer for ARS and got to go around the country doing training. And one of my my controllers, she had much more opportunity to do other things within the organization. We had one of my people became our general manager. So it was just fun to see my people grow and be able to provide benefits and things like that for them that I was never able to do on my own, and have access to more training, more resources for them. And then finally, I guess what was going to be good for my customers. I wanted somebody that was going to be, that didn't want to come in and and take advantage of people. I wanted to feel like our values were aligned, and they wanted what I wanted. They weren't after a one-time, transaction. It was about creating a lifetime value with my customers. So, that's what I would tell people that I think you're still looking for. You're still looking for kind of three-legged stool.
That's super interesting. And I reflect back on just a year and a half ago when I was going through it, right? And someone told me, a good friend of yours as well, told me, Chuck, because that was my major concern, was my people. What is going to happen to my people?
Yep.
And, I didn't want to let that go, right? It wasn't about the baby. Like, I was ready to let the company go, but I didn't want my people to go onto a bad spot, right? And this person told me, they said, you've done everything that you can to be an influence in their life. And no matter what happens, that they are going to be in a better position.
Yeah.
And those words will always live with me, Denise, because it's so true. Whether they stay with the new company or not, every single one of them, I've impacted their lives, and they're in a better position than before they met me.
Absolutely.
So I think you're spot on with that. And knowing that it wasn't that long ago that I went through it, that was one of my major concerns, right? Now, talk a little bit more. I mean, we just had the pleasure of interviewing Ray, and he's right, just happened to him. Talk a little bit more about like what your growth strategies are when you partner with companies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those things that, for us, we are different than some of the other private equity groups that are out there. We prefer to be a little more, I call it more boutique-y. Like, we're not trying to grow, rapidly. We prefer to find the right fit for us culturally, somebody that's going to, what P1 stands for is it stands for people first, but it means, it means our customers, it means our employees, and it means our investors and shareholders. And so we're looking for people that are going to fit that culture with us. And we prefer to be kind of slow and steady and methodical about who we bring on and how we integrate them into the platform. And so, we look to do, at least a couple. We'd like to do a couple bigger deals a year, and then some small tuck-ins, and grow our existing, businesses through some nice little tuck-ins in their markets.
Yeah.
So for companies that are out there trying to understand all this, because I don't think it's already a struggle that I'm really good at being a technician. I'm good at a specialty. I'm a SME in something. And then all of a sudden I'm an entrepreneur, and that doesn't come with a class. And then all of a sudden I'm, CFO, and that doesn't come with the class, right?
I got it. Yeah.
Right. We can go through all of these different pieces, but somewhere in the middle, we've got to go from being the subject matter expert and having a dream, right? Right, to this entrepreneurial space where there is some level of expectation that if you're going to take on the responsibility, accountability, the weight, and I'm just going to be frank, the burden of caring for other humans and their families and their livelihood, if you were going to succinctly put together these are the things you need to put in place in order not to be get pennies on the dollar and be tucked in and disappear. There are instances where we just miss the middle piece of I go from being an expert, subject matter expert at one thing to I become a business owner, entrepreneur. And I'll throw it out there. When I start off at events, I always say, "What are you guys?" And they're like, "I'm a dealer. I'm a contractor." I'm like, "A BS? No, you're not. You're an entrepreneur."
Yeah.
That is your hat. That's the hat you chose to put on every day when you sign those checks, right? And that hat comes with certain obligations that will protect you and it'll protect your people. Like if you were going to list out the first core fundamentals that need to be priorities for these guys and gals that are getting into entrepreneurship or have been in it and not seeing a lot of growth, what would you say the priorities are?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm kind of putting myself back in that seat when I got that letter in the mail, and I went to check out the networking, contractor success group at the time. For me, I was fortunate in my life that I found really great mentors. And it's one of those things today, you got to be really careful with who you pick as your mentor, because there's everybody out there claiming to be a guru, and yet you want somebody that's walked that path before, that has those secrets of success kind of laying around them. That's what you're looking for. I wouldn't be where I was today, and it wasn't just Jim and his organization. I mean, I happened to be I was coming up at the right time in Contractor Success Group and met some really cool players that have played a critical part in my life. Leland Smith was one of my mentors, and Kevin Comerford, and a guy named Ron McCann, and those people, they were my mentors. And like you said, Chuck, I could pick up the phone today and call any of them and they'll take my call and give me advice. And it's not because they're looking to make a quick buck. They wanting to give back, and so I would encourage you first, find somebody that has a heart for serving and wants to give back and has been there before and leave secrets to their success, and lean into that. Find the right people to kind of network and support you. And then for me, I go back to one of the things Mike A taught me a long time ago at CEO Warrior. We as owners and leaders in our business, we have to think about our business as 2 levels up from now. So what got us here today won't get us to where we're going to go tomorrow. So we need to be looking at the systems, the processes, the people that we need to put in place. And I always like to, I was very fortunate in my business that my husband was also involved in the business and my dad was also involved in the business. And so our strengths, was each other's weaknesses. And so as a leader, I was able to have people around me that filled my weaknesses, and I knew and recognized what they were and found people that were really good at those things and put them in place and had, clear accountability, roles and responsibilities that people kind of knew which lane they played in,
Mhm.
And of course, I think there's lots of other things, having a budget, knowing where a plan, where are you going to go? You can't get there if you don't know where you're going to go, if you're not measuring the score of the game every day. So I would encourage you, even if you're a one-man shop getting started, measure yourself, track your own conversion rate, track your own average ticket, get used to tracking those metrics, because it's going to serve you well as you continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree. I had a mentor that told me I remember her. I think I was in my early 20s, Shireen Hunsinger. She was the VP of Global Supply Chain Strategy for Nordstrom. And I remember she said, "There's one secret. Walk 5 steps ahead and you'll get there faster. Wear the hat you wish to be." I was like, "Wear the hat I wish to be." I was 20 and looking for where the bar was after that.
Yeah, I got you.
But I won't forget it. I tell my same team, this is what position do you want? Be that right now. Why do you have to wait for the promotion? Why do you have to wait for the title? If you want to be a $5 million company, let's be a $5 million company right now. What's in the bank doesn't matter.
Yeah. Start with the mindset, I mean,
Yeah, awesome. So Denise, we also talk about a lot on our podcast about technology. What are some great new technology that you guys are implementing that even a year and a half ago wasn't available?
AI.
Yes, we are learning AI and implementing that in various ways in our company and loving what it's doing for us. I definitely think, having some type of AI follow-up process in place for unbooked calls, canceled calls, unsold leads, all of that stuff, that's a game changer. And then, for us, I'm actually going next week out to Rilla Masters, and we implemented Rilla in our locations last
Love
year. And that's been a
We
game
had
changer.
Sebastian on our podcast a couple weeks, like a month ago.
Yeah, it's been a game changer for us. It took a little bit, it took a little bit to get people comfortable with the technology,
Yep.
but now it's kind of like this is just the way we do business. And I think back when CSRs first started getting recorded, it was kind of the same thing with them too. Like, oh my gosh, I'm being recorded. And now you just never even think about it. It's just the way we do it. So yeah, that's been really, really helpful for us.
You know what's amazing, because this again wasn't available a year and a half ago, right? And I look back and I'm like, Denise, if you could train the AI your knowledge, and you only had to do it once, man, that's incredible. Because like I'll tell you, you trained.
Oh,
my
but you
staff.
can.
Yes.
Yeah. I know she can.
Yeah.
I know she can. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you trained my staff, and we continued to have to train them every 6 weeks. They would fall back down, and we'd have to pick them back up, and all this. So, like, to say that, I'm like, this is amazing. And then, secondly, if you remember, like, I was on the verge of doing a generic Rilla. I was basically having my technicians put their phone in their pocket and
hit the record button.
ride-alongs. And I'm like, why couldn't I have named a cool company named Rilla or something? Like, no, but I mean, look, that's how fast it's going, and that's why I bring it up and we talk about it a lot on the podcast. Is like, man, and it's just like, so I think back of when we first started with Service Titan. It's like, oh my gosh, for years I was using 20%, 26% of the capacity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now you have Service Titan, Rilla, AI, all these other things. Like, how are people keeping up? But when there's options like partnering with someone like P1, I think it's amazing for the industry, because you guys are developing departments that handle that stuff. And these like, until you can get to 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 million, you can't afford to do that. Like, I was at 20 million a year in sales, and we were bringing in-house SEO. Jen, don't yell at me. I know it was a stupid idea. I regret it, but I did save some money to go to my bottom line, so it wasn't that stupid. But the reason I did that, going back to talking about you're thinking of being a $5 million a year company before you're a $5 million a year company, I did that because I heard industry standards were at 30 million, you bring SEO in-house. So I'm like, I'm going to get to 30 million. I'm going to bring it in-house. But that's, again, a lot of this technology nowadays, like, you have to start to think, okay, at 2 or 3 million, you probably don't need Rilla. Okay. But there's going to be a point that you need it. So where is it in your journey that you're going to need this technology? So I think it's like, I just love, I love all this that's going on in the trades, and just really interesting to me.
I think that's right now, the majority of the home service companies are in an interesting position for the next year. They are going to be hit from every software company under the sun. And being able to prioritize what and when and why is going to be very, very messy.
Yes.
Very messy. This is going to be tough. I mean, even right now, I see a lot of companies that they haven't gotten over that $2-3 million, and they're investing in technologies that technically don't serve them at all. They have no traffic. They have zero traffic coming into their website, but we're spending $500 a month on this gadget, another $500 a month on that gadget, another $500 on this gadget. There's no human beings. There's no at-bats for the technology to serve any purpose. It's not that the technology is bad. It was that it was implemented at the wrong time. And
100%.
I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow, because a lot of companies that are entering this space also know better. They know they don't know. So this is an easy target. So
I agree.
why I'm training all day, every day, just to make them aware. I want them to be able to call BS.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't generate more leads. That converts more business. When I don't have traffic, that doesn't matter. So
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the shiny objects, especially in today's world with all this new technology that we're faced
Yeah.
with every single day. And it's really about sitting back and asking, what's the return on my investment going to be? What's the return on life going to be? What's the return on my time going to be? And answering those questions, like, why am I going to chase this shiny object? Is this the right thing for me at this point in time in my journey?
They
Such
also,
a great point.
yeah, I agree.
Denise, the decision-making criteria.
Exactly.
Totally
Come up
different.
with, like, I still have the card in my wallet.
Yep.
Literally, if you don't know what it is, reach out to me. I'm not going to go into it right now because me and Denise will be talking for 5 hours about this one. But there's a decision-making criteria, and sometimes those decisions will change. But for the most part, there's 5 certain ones that you ask every single time when you're making a decision in your company. What will it do for the company? What will it do for the employees? Denise, what are the other ones?
Oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot, and I haven't looked at that card in a long time.
Anyways,
what is the risk if I don't do it?
Podcast we do, but
Yeah.
it's so amazing because you literally it breaks it down. It makes you stop and think. Okay, is this the right time for certain things? People aren't thinking; they're just saying, "Oh, that guy used it in his company. He's doing $50 million a year. I should do it too, and I'm at 2 million." No.
Yeah.
Well, this is I was actually just chatting something too. It made me think about something else. This is a tough one right now. The majority of the largest companies in the home service space are relying on traditional, get to call them traditional now, traditional marketing and advertising strategies. The new That's your paid ads and LSA and traditional digital and so forth. You have a new technology that has launched over the last 60 days to 6 months, AI search engines. And within the AI search engines, there are no paid advertising, there are no LSAs, there is no Google business with your 10,000 reviews. These small companies, if they get it right, if they're part of the adoption curve in the beginning, if they wait, then they wait until the chasm until it's needed, and all of the larger companies figure it out, they're gonna miss a huge opportunity. This is a really interesting period of time because all these small businesses now have the ability, since a billion consumers have moved in a 60-day period to an AI search engine, that's a different ballgame. That's a
Yeah.
different space.
Yeah.
Like, they can actually compete even without the larger companies overbidding and over budgeting and so forth. This is just a really interesting time frame. So if they can articulate, if they can say that I wasn't able to play the traditional media or the traditional digital game, but I was an early adopter for AI search, and I'm already generating traffic, I'm already generating business, I made all of those moves, you may be able to increase your valuation, position yourself better when it does come down to uh, sitting with the P1 and having that conversation, because you're bringing something new to the table that even I think a lot of the private equity groups, at least my clients, they're still trying to figure it out. How do I get into an AI-enabled website? How do I get into AI search? It's 6 months old. No one has the book yet.
Yeah, exactly. We're still figuring it out as we go. So
Yeah, and that brings up a great point for me, and a question I wanted to ask you too, Denise, is like, so right now in P1's position, what mix are you guys looking for? Are you looking at all residential? Are you looking at some commercial and residential? Like, what are you guys looking for?
yeah, that's a great question. We're primarily residential, but
Okay.
yet we will look at companies that have other types of mix in there as well. We just closed an acquisition that has a little bit of project type work in there, and it was really attractive to us because it fit into a market we want it to be in. They had some other pieces of their business that's really attractive, and that piece of the business is really profitable. And so we're open. We won't say no to anybody for just mixed purposes, but we're going to look at what market they're in, look at what the profitability is, what's the upside, how can we blend it in, if we've got somebody else nearby, how can we maximize or multi-trade it if we want to.
Yeah, and that's really important for the guys that are million, 2 million, 3 million, right? Like, when you're talking about adopting, getting into AI, becoming more of the residential focus, that was the thing 2-3 years ago. All these PE firms that's what they wanted. Now I heard that shifted, and you just confirmed it for me. So I would, if I was growing a business 1, 2, 3 million right now, I would still be actively looking at commercial accounts. Commercial service is different than commercial new construction. New construction is different than when you're dealing with commercial other things, right? Like, so HVAC service, plumbing service, drain cleaning service, commercial's big, right? And I hear that that's where some shift is focusing to. Now, obviously, if you can have a mix of 60 or 70% residential and 20 or 30 commercial, that's going to be really a lot better than if you're 60% commercial and 30% residential. But I thought that was a good point to bring up, because it gives people a direction where to go, right? Like, Jen, if you can't beat Google, right, or you're never going to beat Google, if you can't adopt to Google or get ranked higher and become that residential, you can shift your focus to get on Service Channel, get with these bigger commercial grocery stores and chain restaurants to service their stuff. That is, in my opinion, a great account.
Yeah, that's an interesting. So in the commercial space, I used to never tell our commercial clients that investing a ton in digital that's not how most of the business is done. However, since AI search, we're getting a lot of traffic without a lot of left to our commercial companies through AI searches, because they're getting in there and they're building a project plan. They're building an RFP. They're getting their budgets in order. They're getting their costing, their timelines, their project management systems, and they're doing it in an AI environment, and naturally finding those commercial companies that have really strong content related to commercial projects. And they're starting to get organic business online, which is exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So Denise, what do you guys want the mix to be? What's the ideal? 60, 40? You want 15 commercial? Does it matter?
We don't really have a number that we try to play to. We look at, is it the right fit for us? What market is it in? What's the leadership team look like? What's the owner wanting to do? We look at all of those things. So nothing's really off the table for us. We look at each deal, uniquely, and see if it's right for the seller and if it's right for us. That's what we're really looking for.
What about geo targets? You have specific markets you guys are hunting in?
We have some that we would prefer. I mean, we definitely, we'd love to have something maybe over in Texas. We'd love to have more in Florida, so we've got a few little markets that, we would definitely love to be in, but we're open to anything. There's nothing geographically that's off the table, but some that definitely, are sweeter to us.
And for the owners, you guys are down with, if they want to stay involved and they want to roll back in and they want to be a part of it?
We prefer that, actually, if they want to stay and be a part of it. But we've had some that have walked away too. So they've, they've stayed on for a period of time, and then they've exited, and we're okay with that because we met their leadership team. And in this one example that I'm thinking of, the former owner had done an amazing job of developing the leadership team underneath her. And so we had some really good people in place that we felt really comfortable with.
Love that. Love that.
Awesome.
So, Miss Denise, what would you recommend? Like, if somebody's interested, obviously they can reach out to Chuck and I, and we'll make sure and connect them with you. But if you've got a company that's interested in having a conversation, when's a good time, and who do they contact?
So they can reach out to me directly, and then I'll forward them to the right people on our team. But my email address is dswafford. It's DSWAFFORD @p1servicegroup.com. So if they just want to drop me an email or reach out to you guys, we'd love to have conversations. That's for sure.
Fantastic. I know that if I was in entrepreneurs, there you go. It just flashed up there. That was quick.
There you
So,
go.
initially, Denise said that one of the very first things that she would recommend that you do is get a good coach or someone that's been there and done that and willing to provide input and advice, help, give you a lighted path to I don't want to say the exit door. I'm just kidding. Give you no pun intended, but give you a lighted path, right? So I would recommend that, right? there's people like Miss Denise, Chuck in the industry, myself. This is what we do. I mean, we're all vested in getting on the phone, having a conversation, figure out where you're trying to get to, and being able to connect you with, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, either people and or tips to help shrink the amount of time it takes you to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah.
I'd love
Yeah.
to-
Denise,
Happy to have conversations with anybody. If you just got a question, just reach out. I'm happy to hop on
Yeah.
a phone call and just have a conversation.
any events you got on your horizon that you're going to go to?
Well, I mentioned I'm going to Rilla next week, but other than that, we'll be at Pantheon, I'm sure next September, and I'm not sure what else we've got up our sleeve, but we'll be out and about. So,
if you see Denise, stop her and talk to her. It will be an unforgettable conversation, and whether the time is now or not, she has a ton of valuable information, and she's not scary. She's only about this big, though. When you see her in person, she's only like 2.5 feet tall.
Away on my secret. I thought I looked taller here, Chuck.
You do. Everyone looks taller on Zoom, So no, but guys, like, stop and say hi to Denise. She is seriously one of my favorite trainers and mentors that I've had in my life. It's an absolute pleasure to chat with you. And thanks for taking the time and being on with us, Denise.
I've had a ball being on with you guys. So anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll have to do this again. Really appreciate it. You guys, for those of you that are joining again, or if you're watching the recording later, hit that like button, drop us some comments, leave questions. If you have ideas or things that you want us to talk about or insights that you want to gain that are going to help with your business and help you accomplish your goals, let us know. We have access to some of the most amazing people in the entire industry. She's here right now. She's friends with Darren Dixon, who was just with us, I think, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So you guys, there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of powerful insights that are on these podcasts. And I know, Denise, you'd come back if we've got a laundry list of questions for you, right?
Absolutely. Would love to.
All right, let's go.
Thanks again, Denise.
Thanks.
Thank you, Denise.